We're not fighting to stay content in a small box. We're fighting to get into the big box and live a larger life. So yes, even though the yo-yo will plummet physically and mentally sometimes, that high, that's worth it every single time. Hello and welcome back to another week of Calling in Sick. I'm your host, Alex Wildeson. You can't hear it in my voice and you most certainly can't see it on my face because I did my makeup, but I am exhausted. If you've been following my socials and listening to my podcast, you know that I've been going through quite the whirlwind of medical testing, partially for my clinical study, partially because I'm in a flare-up, and that flare-up is because of said clinical study. I went off prednisone to do a bunch of testing to kind of get to some answers that had been unattainable until now, and I took it upon myself to play my own part and role in this effort. And I pushed all the boundaries, I broke all of my rules, and helped my little body do what we needed it to do and flare the fuck up. I get to restart prednisone this Saturday. And I never thought I'd say these words, but I am so ready and so excited to start the prednisone. Because my body hurts, all my symptoms are flaring, and I am so tired. But I am grateful that we did all of this, and I'll get into that at the end of this week's episode. During this last month, I pushed my boundaries. I crashed. I flared up. I was almost hospitalized. I got back on the horse. I pushed boundaries again. But I walked away with some good lessons on how to navigate this chapter of my chronic illness in my life. And that's what we're going to get into in this week's episode. The lessons I've learned from pushing the boundaries, which boundaries I'm holding firm on, and which ones I'm saying goodbye to, at least for now. Big arm wave at the top here. This won't always work because we know that chronic illnesses don't make any sense. I did an entire podcast episode on that. So for right now, this is my new rule book, but you know that will need to be refreshed probably in a week. And I'm not even kidding. Not even remotely. But before we dive into this week's episode, quick housekeeping. Thank you guys so much for rating the show and leaving reviews. Reading them put tears in my eyes. You guys are the sweetest, most amazing community a girl could have ever asked for. So thank you. I love seeing how you guys interact with the podcast, what you think of it, how you listen to it. So thank you for sharing. As a thank you for you guys really pushing this podcast out even more in the last few weeks, my Alex's picks this week are all about comfort, and they are, yep, you guessed it, all on sale because it's sale season. My first pick of the week is the Crown Pillow. Its name is perfect because honestly, this pillow is the queen of all pillows. You place it over your eyes. It's massive. Think like mega eye mask. And you place it over your face and kind of tuck it in over your ears. It muffles sound, not mutes sound, which I personally love as someone who is rather on edge and has some trauma around break-ins and whatnot. I want to be able to hear things at night, but not that much. It's the perfect level of muting. And it blocks out the light. It's excellent. This Crown Pillow, I now have two of them, and both of them go with me everywhere. The infusion center, hospitals, road trips, traveling, and every night, cuddled up with yours truly. Now, we are buying another one because St. Cooper loves the Crown Pillow too, and he keeps snagging one of mine. So we are taking advantage of their only sale of the entire year right now. And they sell out quick, so even though the sale goes until December 1, get your order in early. You don't want to be disappointed and sad that you missed out and have to wait a whole another year to treat yourself to the best pillow, accommodation, little self-care elevation you could possibly imagine. Link in the description below. No discount code this week because they're all on sale. My second pick of the week is the Chroma Bone Broth. It's their 24 karat bone broth. It comes in a freeze-dried packet, so it's travel friendly, infusion room friendly. I love how deep the flavor is, but without being overly rich or heavy. Very drinkable, very good when you are nauseous or having one of those liquid-only days, weeks that come with being chronically sick and in a flare-up. I stumbled into these about a year ago, and they have remained in full stock in our pantry because I love them that much. It's in my purse at all times in case I get cranky on the go, and it's always, always in my Modern Picnic little lunchbox that I bring with me to my infusion center. Link in the description below, and I'm working on a discount code for you guys. Side quest note, I've been working with my team on our gift guides for the holiday season, so make sure you check out the Shop My link in the description below, and it will take you to the board that helps you pick out gifts for him, for her, for puppies, for home, for health, and for stocking stuffers. We've had so much fun pulling it together for you guys, and I hope you enjoy it. And last side quest, our merch is dropping the pre-order the week of Thanksgiving. I know every new mom to merch says this, but I have to say my merch is really cute, and I'm so excited for you guys to get your hands on it. You're going to want to rock it wherever you go. It is nostalgia met with modern comfort. It's unique. I don't think I've ever seen merch that looks like it, so I hope you guys fall in love with it as much as the team and I have. It has been such a blast getting to design it from start to finish, and I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on it. We will be doing giveaways, so if you guys can walk away with your own merch for free and a personalized note from yours truly, thanking you for being a part of this family. So set your timers and your calendar reminders for the Monday of Thanksgiving week. It's limited quantity, and so you do want to order early before we sell out. Hopefully. I'm manifesting it. I'm not going to say hopefully, before we sell out, because that's going to happen. Anyway, I love you guys. Can't wait to have all of us be matching very, very soon this holiday season. Without further ado, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this week's episode. Pushing the boundaries, what I learned, what I lost, and what we're going to do. So in all of this medical testing coming off prednisone period, I have pushed the boundaries, and it's helped me find some kind of middle ground, at least for right now. I know a week ago I said chronic illness doesn't make any sense, and that holds true. But through this mess, I have found a little bit of sense, or delusion. Perhaps both. Anyway, this last month had some high highs and some low lows. The first time I let my guard down and pushed my boundaries all the way, that week I had so many work meetings. I went to the Jonas Brothers. I stayed up late. I went to a birthday lunch for my nephew. I crashed and burned. Almost was hospitalized, but my body was gracious enough to say, "Not today, Satan." And then I got back up on the horse, only to have more testing done, put my boundaries aside, push through again, go to a friend's reunion up in Dallas, a 10-hour road trip, a 10-hour road trip, round trip, hosted impromptu some friends because of FAA fuckery and flight cancellations. And I'm sitting here today to still tell the tale. I'm feeling pretty rough, but I'm alive. I can at least podcast for a little bit here, so better than we expected. And so through all of this madness, I realized a few things, and I figured, why not compare what worked and what didn't work during this very special testing time that we've been treated with, to resettle on how to find your boundaries for your current chronic illness state. Because I think when you find those boundaries, chronic illness becomes a bit more predictable. It makes a little bit more sense, and that changes the entire game. So let's get into it. So my first takeaway is that the yo-yoing of okay pushing, crash out, flare up, personal hell, that yo-yo did a number on my mental health. I would be hysterically laughing and then on the floor in a puddle of tears, cursing life itself. So this is a cautionary tale that if you decide to challenge yourself and find out where your own boundaries are, do so with the little nugget in your brain that there's going to be some emotional roller coaster that goes with the physical roller coaster. But you guys are chronic illness champs, and you probably already knew that. And I don't know why I didn't realize that before I went into this very exciting time. Those yo-yo moments are hard. And I know all of us can probably point to a time in our lives where our emotions were yo-yoing, and we know how hard that can be. But what my biggest takeaway from the yo-yo is that it gave me some perspective of gratitude for when I do force myself to live in that little box that's safe with restrictions on my lifestyle and whatnot so that I can try to prevent a flare-up. I do that with a good intent in mind, and when I am living that way, I'm now going to give myself some props for taking care of myself and putting my health first. What I also realized is that box needs to be exchanged for a larger box sometimes. And I talk about it all the time, that life is big and we can't let it pass us by. And so if we're going to push the boundaries, and we're aware that we're going to have to probably pay to play, but if the mental high offsets the physical cost here and there, then it's okay to loosen the boundaries a little bit and live that larger life. I think that that's really good for our mental health. So although the yo-yoing was terrible, to say it plainly, I did walk away with a perspective change. I used to dread when I had to shrink my little life and be in that small box. Now I think I'm a bit more grateful that I know how to shrink that box. I have the tools, I have good wellness stuff to help me navigate those times to try to avoid the hospital. I know how to create my own fun during those times, like finding new hobbies, like paint by numbers or gardening or, I don't know, just being content scrolling on my phone. And it gave me some pride in myself that I knew how to put myself and my health first to take care of myself. The yo-yoing also helped me realize just how good life can feel when you do get to escape those boundaries. And that feeling of joy, unbridled joy, and memory building, like going to the Jonas Brothers concert or going to a reunion weekend with my friends at their ranch, that's what we're fighting for. We're not fighting to stay content in a small box. We're fighting to get into the big box and live a larger life. So yes, even though the yo-yo will plummet physically and mentally sometimes, that high, that's worth it every single time. And I love that I got to walk away with that perspective, because being sick for 25 years, sometimes you forget about that, like why you are trying to fight so hard beyond your other whys that exist. And it's that life exists out there and it's ours to return to at certain points. Speaking of life and lifestyle things, I was actually very excited and curious to push the boundaries on my lifestyle restrictions to really figure out how many of my quote-unquote rules are actually impactful to my health and preventing a flare or making me feel a lot better. Side note, I probably should have done one of these things at a time instead of all of them at the same time. Can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Side note, I should have done one of these tweaks at each time, kind of like an elimination diet. You don't throw out all the foods and then re-add all the foods at the same time. But, it's history now, so we're going to walk away with what we walked away, because I'm sure as fuck not doing that again. Let's start off with food. You guys know that I've done all the diets. I've been sick for 25 years, for Christ's sake. So I've done the elimination diets. I've done the AIP diet. I've done the SIBO diet. I've done anti-inflammatory, Mediterranean, what have you, vegan, plant-based. I've done it and I've tried it and I have figured out what works for me and for my body. And what that's been is no to low gluten, no to low dairy, no to low sugar, no to low alcohol. Those things seem to keep my body at somewhat of a status quo. And I have to say, it was liberating to eat everything and anything again. I don't think I've done that since 2019 when I first got diagnosed. The best meal that I had, Midwestern tacos. I am talking a delicious gluten tortilla with ground beef and taco seasoning, sour cream, cheese, all the things. God, it hit so good. I think I had 5 and maybe it was the quantity, honestly, but I got incredibly ill afterwards from it and I did not have supplements. So that was the boundary I tested. Was it worth it? Hell yes. What did I learn from doing that? It's good that I have food restrictions because those keep me going for days. When I don't follow them, I have to pay a price. And I would say that the mental high from the good food is not always worth the physical low. That did not get offset super well. But you guys know I'm an 80-20 person, so I will indulge here and there continuously into the future. But I will do it wisely, limiting how many things I'm opening the gates to when I'm having an indulging day on food. And I will be taking my gluten and dairy enzymes with it because why the hell would you do that raw dog? That was so dumb of me. And it did confirm what we already knew, that those foods make me feel bad. So honestly, I don't really know why I decided to do that without the enzymes that I know help me. I think I just was like so locked into that I don't have to live by any rules. I get the opportunity to force myself to flare and see what actually does that. And I overdid it, which is not shocking to any of you. I already know that. Although the outcome of food with flare-ups wasn't that shocking, sleep was shocking to me. It was shocking to me because no matter how much sleep I get, I wake up and I very, very rarely feel well rested. So when I was testing this and staying up super fucking late and just saying, oh, how will the chips fall? I'm probably not going to feel well rested anyway. No. It wasn't that I just didn't feel well rested. I felt like I was going to actually collapse and die. Sleep is incredibly important, even if you don't feel well rested. And here's how I tested that. The first week of inducing a flare, when I let all of my guard down, and I went to the Jonas Brothers concert. I then stayed up till 2 a.m. chatting with my friend Julie and then watching TV with St. Coop. And I kept pushing. I kept doing that stay up late, watch TV, hang out thing for a week. And I crashed and burned. And honestly, I think that was one of the largest contributors to that crash out. When I went to the ranch, but after that whole collapse and fall down, and I got a second chance rebound, and I went to the away weekend with all my friends up at the ranch, I went to bed at 10 p.m. every single night, and I got 10 hours of sleep every single night we were up there, while all of my friends were staying up super late and not getting sleep. Just that, the amount of impact that alone had on my ability to feel somewhat decent and okay after the ranch weekend and the impromptu hosting, shocking to me. So I am doubling down on my sleep protocols, sleep hygiene. I'm going to try to be as consistent as possible with what time I go to sleep and what time I wake up. I'm going to do better about screen time before bed. I think sleep is probably in the top 3 rules to keep in our lifestyle things with a chronic illness. That one is not to be tested again. I'm going to really prioritize sleep. But the lifestyle thing I was the most excited about, to break all the rules about was socializing. Before I got diagnosed with vasculitis in college and during investment banking, I was what you would call a social butterfly. I was doing something all the time. I loved hanging out with my friends. I loved talking on the phone. I felt energized by being with my people. After I got sick, it was the exact opposite. Socializing, chatting on the phone, drained my battery immediately. It was like I was running on an iPhone 5 in 2025. So when I had the opportunity, and I'm using that word again, to force my flare up, that's what I wanted to return to the most. I wanted to socialize at the maximum I could possibly tolerate without collapsing on the floor. So that first let down the guard week, if you will, I said yes to things I normally would not say yes to, like going to the concert, like staying up late after, like going to brunch the next day. And it made me have that realization that if the heart cup gets really, really filled and filled enough, it sometimes can offset the physical paying to play. But being the little scientist I am, I decided to test that a second time when I went to my friend's reunion at the ranch last weekend. And I have to say, so while we were there, I was with people from the time I woke up until the time I went to bed, for the most part. There are some caveats I'll get into in a little bit there. But that social cup got so incredibly full and my heart was so happy. So I walked away. So after this month, that's now going to be a new, larger priority where it doesn't matter how small and little I'm going to have to make my life during flare-ups. I'm going to find ways to get that itch scratched, to get my heart cup full from socializing in lower spoons way, like FaceTiming my friends or watching the same TV show or movie and texting during it. I'm going to try to make that a larger priority in my life going forward because it really does help me feel better emotionally enough to offset any physical So let's talk about how I safely socialized while up in Dallas with St. Cooper and all of his high school friends. This was a large reunion weekend. It was all of Coop's high school friends. It was a gathering of all of Cooper's childhood, like 4th grade through adulthood, friends, their girlfriends, and wives. And what I will say is by the end of that weekend, I felt way better than what I expected. And I think it's because I kept some of these rules strictly. The first rule was I went to bed at my usual bedtime. 10 p.m. would roll around, and I decided not to be embarrassed about it, but I'd go and I gave every single person a hug, said goodnight, and then took my ass right up to bed and fell soundly asleep. And I will also say that sleep crown blocked out the noise enough that I actually did sleep. The second rule that I followed to a T is I did not overdo it on breaking my diet rules. Granted, my stomach was incredibly unhappy and so fucked up from that capsule endoscopy that I was having GI issues the entirety of the weekend. It was lovely. Quick side quest story. After I took the capsule endoscopy, we drove from Austin to Dallas, which is about a 2.5-hour drive. And when we got to the airport to pick up some of our friends, I realized I needed to have an explosive problem in the bathroom. But I was wearing this very strange sash backpack thing on the front that was like the receiving recorder for the pill camera that was going through my intestines. I looked at Cooper and I was like, pull over the car, I gotta run. So I ran into the airport in such a mad rush, crazed eyeballs, and I got stopped. Someone said, are you okay? What are you looking for? And I was like, I gotta go to the bathroom. And I just kept running. Looking back, I realized I looked like I was wearing a vest with explosives. How TSA did not tackle me to the ground, I do not know, but I am relieved because I would have had a bathroom emergency on the ground. You're welcome for that side quest story. So all weekend at the ranch, I tried to stick to my diet for the most part. My stomach wasn't feeling good, so I really locked in on that. Bone broth, my safe little chippies that are salty. The boys, all of Coop's friends were like, that's not enough food, Alex. So they made me mashed potatoes. They tried to make sure I was eating enough, and it was incredibly sweet. Like, my gratitude towards this friend group has no ends. Knows no bounds, whatever the saying is. I love you guys. The third thing that I held consistent is I forced myself to sit a lot. I sat on chairs. I sat on porch swings. I sat on the couch and I let the people come to me, and I felt like I was holding court like a queen. And honestly, I loved it. It was very me and on par. And it allowed me to have really meaningful and lovely one-on-one catch-up conversations with some of these friends I hadn't seen in over 6 years. And you guys know I'm a sentimental girly, so that kind of socializing fills my cup up way more than if I were to have abandoned my couch and sitting rule and had stood all day playing drinking games or anything like that. I also did not drink. As you guys know, I drink a handful of times per year. This was not a weekend I wanted to test that rule and boundary, so I stayed true and I didn't drink. And I made my little mocktails, and I also introduced my friends to some of my little mocktails, and they loved them. Granted, we're also all a little bit older, in our 30s, and so when we all get together, it's not about drinking and drinking games. It's about quality time together, which is helpful. The reunions in the past when I was younger, it would have been a lot harder to hold still on not drinking. The last rule that I held on to that saved my ass, I used my wellness toolkit. It is there for a reason. I have curated it over 25 years to help sustain me, and I didn't want to burn out during the fun weekend. I can flare this week when I'm back home. So I brought my PEMF map by higher dose. I laid on it every single day. I brought my supplements. I brought vitamin C gel shots by Symbiotica, passed them around to everybody. I introduced everyone to duvet days, brought face masks, and everyone loved learning and being a part of the wellness duvet day, which was really fun to show all of them my world instead of hiding it all away in my room and being embarrassed that I was having to be so stringent about my health. It felt supportive and nurturing, and I'm really grateful that I was able to share that part of me IRL with them. But I did not hold all the rules true because I'm a perfect little patient and I know I'm supposed to be breaking all the rules right now because we're still in the forcing a flare umbrella time period. I have one more test and it's this Friday. It's a PET scan. I've never had one of those before, so check my socials if you are curious what those are like. I will be documenting it for sure. I'm also going to be putting up a reel about what a pill cam is like because it's actually fucking hilarious. There were rules that I broke, but they had nothing to do with preventing a flare. And they had everything to do with having good manners. I had bad etiquette while I was at the weekend away to save spoons and tried to not let myself be hospitalized because I was flaring. I usually want to be the most helpful house guest. I want to help with cooking, with cleaning. Well, not cooking. Lord knows I can't do that, but I will volunteer my husband to do the cooking. I want to help with cleaning. I want to help with entertaining, setting things, making it nice, as Dorinda from Bravo would say. But I decided to not do that this trip. I did not lift a finger. Cooper put all the work in for both of us. He cooked, he cleaned, he made sure things were done and that we were contributing. And instead, I made sure to bring a very sweet little gift and thank you note for our hosts. And that was the extent of what I did to participate in the reciprocity that should come when you are a guest in someone else's home. That was to save spoons, because if I had used my spoons to do all of those things that I normally like to do to feel like a good person, I wouldn't have been able to use spoons to do other fun things, like actually go on a jet ski with Cooper, which was shocking to me that I actually said yes to that, or do the photo shoot and dress up with all my girlfriends while we were there. I had terrible guest manners, and I don't feel bad about it. And it honestly feels bizarre, because I grew up with the rules that you pitch in, you're a team player, and you go above and beyond when you're a guest in someone else's home and you try to not let them do the work because they're hosting you, for Christ's sake. But because Cooper double pitched in, I didn't feel as bad. Which made me want to ask you guys, do you think it is okay if a couple goes on a trip together and only one person in the couple contributes to the cleanup, the cooking, the house guest isms, and the other one doesn't? And let's approach that with both chronic illness and not chronic illness, because I'm curious if that changes your couple math. Your couple's math? Your couple's math. The second etiquette rule that I broke, I hid. I Irish exited and hid and gave myself little tap out moments when I was overstimulated, over-socialized, or tired. I did not say goodbye to anybody. I did not warn anybody I was going somewhere. I just quietly went upstairs and laid on my bed with my dogs until I felt refueled again. And then I went back downstairs, and guess what? Nobody noticed, because everyone was having fun, and when people are having fun, they're not looking around to see what everyone is doing. There also were a lot of people there, which did help. The third etiquette rule that I broke, we left early. We did not stay until the very end of the weekend. I knew that if we stayed till the end of the weekend, I inevitably would be putting myself in very bad flare hospitalization territory. So I'm very glad that we just listened to my intuition and went home early. Now, despite having rules that I held and etiquette rules that I broke, in all, I walked away from that weekend feeling better than I expected. Minus the walking part. I kicked the living daylights out of a stone fireplace because I have horrible vision and I was not wearing my contacts or glasses. And I have a toe that looks so incredibly broken. But still, that did not infringe on how happy my heart feels after this weekend. So now, being almost done with this testing season, I've been curious, has it been worth it to test all these boundaries? And I have a resounding, screaming yes. It's been so worth it. I have a whole new perspective about living with chronic illness. I know where my cup gets more full and what boundaries are maybe safer, in quotes, to push. I know why I push so hard when I'm hurting or exhausted or have medical burnout, why I keep pushing. And it's because I saw glimpses of old me. Glimpses of the girl that was this huge social butterfly. The girl that said yes to everything. That was get up and go, and the woo girl of the entire friend group. I got to see and feel like her again. And that was so worthwhile. So yes, it was worthwhile. Would I do it all again? Fuck no. Flaring like this for an entire month? Terrible. It's been a very miserable experience. I would not recommend to anybody, and in fact, it's going to get a 0 out of 5 stars. But a small sliver of me potentially would entertain the idea of doing this entire month again. The other thing that I've realized from this entire experience is that I'm a little bit better at managing my spoons than I give myself credit for, and that my body can handle a little bit more boundary pushing than I anticipated. It's funny to say it because I've been sick for so long, but I get scared to flare up. I get scared to get really sick again, and being in a flare up for this long has made me scared to really push the boundaries because I just want to get the fuck out of this flare up. But fun doesn't have to be exclusive for just feeling good. You are allowed to have fun when you are in the shits of a flare up. Because sometimes when you're having fun, you get an adrenaline boost and it pushes you through to actually enjoy whatever thing you wanted to go do. Be it a Jonas Brothers concert, be it staying up late watching a movie, be it going to a ranch weekend with your friends. And that adrenaline boost pushes you out of the fear, pushes you out of that box that you hold yourself into to protect yourself. And when you get out of that bubble, you do realize that there's a bigger world out there that you are still a part of. And it puts that seed back in your brain to keep pushing, to keep fighting for the next day, because it will come around. I know that I have a mile-long hike still to do that's all uphill to get myself back to a better place. But now I'm not going to spend that entire mile hike in my bed with all of my very strict boundaries and routines. Hell no. I'm still going to go do the fun things. I now know that sometimes that mental health hit offsets the physical just enough to be worthwhile, to chase and to do and to commit to. So bring it on. And I am continuing this by going to see John Mulaney this Saturday. I'm so excited. I got incredibly lucky. Row 3 seats for under $150 per ticket, which is still a splurge, I will admit, a large splurge. But he's my favorite comedian, and I'm so excited to go and see him. And I know that that's still pushing. I've got a PET scan on Friday, an interview on Friday after the PET scan. I'm going to be fucking tired. And that's okay, because I'm not scared of how I'm going to feel anymore. I'm going to feel shitty, but my heart is going to feel so full, and that will hopefully offset the shitty. Now, speaking of offsetting the shitty, this position that I've been sitting in for the last hour is shitty. It is really starting to hurt. So let's talk about the one brain cell segment and then get on with our day. So my one brain cell pick of this week is Frankenstein. It's not really one brain cell in terms of you can check out and dissociate during it, but it is incredibly entertaining to the point that it will distract you from your symptoms that are going on. It's not morbid and gory and bloody, but it's dark. But dark in the same way that like Phantom of the Opera is dark, but not as long as the Phantom of the Opera movie, as that thing goes on for ages. I honestly think the movie is longer than the actual musical itself. Anywho, Frankenstein on Netflix, incredibly well done. Who knew Jacob Elordi had such acting depth in him? That boy can do the role. Holy hell. I was so impressed. It's been so good to watch, but Cooper and I only watched half of it last night because we watched After Dancing with the Stars and it was pretty late when we kicked off the movie. But see, throwing caution to the wind. Just saying yes to the fun. Watching the movie starting at 9 p.m. instead of being scared and worrisome that I'm going to stay up too late. I still went to bed by 11. You can turn off the TV. You can still have fun within boundaries. So anyway, but we kept wanting to watch it because it's fascinating. All day today I've been thinking about it because it talks kind of about life and death and this gray space that is life in between. And this gray space that's in between, and how chronic illness coded is the gray space. So if you like a little heavier movie, if you like to be distracted from your pain, this one is totally for you. It's on Netflix. I can't wait to hear what you guys think about it. DM me when you watch it so we can yap about it because, whoo, no one else in my family will watch it, but I need to talk about it. It's that good. And on that note, I love you guys dearly. Thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for bearing through this last month of flaring with me and giving me grace to skip a week of podcasting because I felt so bad and way overdid it. And here's to this last 8 weeks of the year, staying somewhat consistent, but not fearing the flare, still having fun and knowing that sometimes that heart cup, kind of offset that physical drain. So onwards, my friends. I love you guys, and see you next week. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining me for another week of Calling in Sick. As a reminder, I would love for y'all to like, follow, subscribe, save, share with your friend, do all of the things. It truly helps grow this community, and it helps these episodes reach the people that need them the most, whether that's for an educational piece, to have a little laugh, or to not feel so alone. As a reminder, Calling in Sick sits on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify, and anywhere else where you can find your listens. From the bottom of my heart, I absolutely love you guys. Thank you so much for calling in sick with me every Monday. It's been an honor and a pleasure so far, and I can't wait to continue building this community with y'all. Love you.